Hi everyone, it's Aga from EurekaCrystalBeads.com and I'm so glad you joined me for another tutorial. Before we get started, just a quick reminder to check out the rest of our channel, and if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss any of our content. In this video, we're going to be making a lovely set consisting of those earrings and this beautiful necklace. It's a very classy set that was inspired by the mix of ELITE Eureka Crystal pearls from our December 2024 collection, which is called the Harmony Collection, and it has these cute pebbles stacked on the inspiration photo. So this is what inspired us to include the mix of pearls as well as these beautiful, gorgeous GleamCraft findings in this collection. They are really unique. Here we have a connector, here we have a clasp from the collection, here we have two pendants and earring posts. They're all in the same kind of vibe and they go so well with those crystal pearls. And the fun thing about this is you can whip it up in maybe half an hour. So even after you've dressed up for the party, you can still get your tools out and make this. So what you're going to need to make both the earrings and the necklace is one Harmony Collection by Eureka Crystal Beads, plus the only thing that you're going to need extra is a bit of chain for the necklace and any findings that are required for this chain. If you have a regular Rolo chain, you're not going to need anything extra, but if you're using a ball chain like me, you're going to need this sort of ball chain, and that's the one thing, plus the tools that you're going to need extra in addition to the collection. But what specific parts of the collection you're going to need to make this? Well, the star of the show are going to be the pearls, the mix of pearls that we have in the collection. If you don't know, basically the Harmony Collection is a sampler collection. So we've included a lot of really top quality materials such as seed beads and crystals. These are crystal pearls from ELITE Eureka Crystal. They're made in Austria and they're really like top notch when it comes to crystal pearls. You also have a lot of these colors of seed beads like I have here that are either hard to obtain or are really the more expensive colors so that you can try out and see if you like them. They are packed in these smaller baggies, so they're not in tubes in the collection, but in smaller baggies so that you can try more of them out. So anyway, we're going to be using the entire mix of pearls that is included in the collection. And for the earrings, that will be the two Baroque drop pearls. We're gonna need 4 4mm pearls and 6 3mm pearls. Then for the necklace, we're going to use the Baroque elongated pearl that is included in the mix in the color cream. We're going to need 3 of the 4mm pearls. These are round pearls. I didn't mention it because it's like a default for pearls, right? They are round. Then I'm also going to use 2 3mm pearls. Then we have these two gorgeous classic white 6mm pearls. And then we have these two Baroque round pearls. That is, I think, the most interesting shape out of here. And that's it for the pearls. You should be left with 1 4mm round pearl. But besides that, this is the entire mix. I'm also going to be using one of the 11-0s that are in the collection, but just a few of them. Then we have the findings, and we have some gorgeous findings in this collection. This is going to be like the centerpiece of our necklace. This is a connector. It has 2 holes, one in here, one on the other side here. And in a similar style, we have these earring findings, earring posts. In the collection, you also have gold ones. Then we have this gorgeous toggle clasp here. Also in the collection, you're going to find head pins with a ball head that we're going to use here, and you have more than enough in the collection. And also in the collection, you have the jump rings that we're going to be using that match perfectly with the head pins as well as all of the other metal elements. I think it's very well coordinated. And as I said, you're gonna need some chain and some chain findings if you need them. That's it for the supplies, and when it comes to tools, you're gonna need a whole bunch of pliers. I have round pliers to make my loops on my headpins. I have flat nose pliers to open and close my jump rings. And finally, I have some wire cutters. And I do recommend for these particular pins that you use some steel wire cutters or memory wire cutters. Here I have, I think, some memory wire cutters because these are stainless steel, so they're going to be a little bit harder to cut and to manipulate in general. So it may be harder than if you're using regular brass or silver or metal pins, but it's going to look very, very nice. Okay, why don't we start? All right, I'm gonna go with the earring first, and when it hangs down, it really looks so nice. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to make all of the components. So the central hanging bit with loops on both sides and with the large pearl, and then these three little smaller dangly things in here, and then we're going to combine them all. I'm going to pick up a single head pin and I'm going to cut off its head because I want loops on both sides. And now for the loop, you want to grab the end, but not at the very end. You want to leave this little bit behind and you roll, whether it's towards you or away from you, whichever way you prefer. And you end up with this loop. Now we need to make it a little bit straighten up. So I'm grabbing it like inside at the very end of my pliers, and then I'm going to just fold it back like this. You can further close it if it opened up a little bit. And there's your loop. Now I'm going to put on my pearls. So this one, which is the Baroque drop, I put it with the kind of thicker end towards the loop that I just made. Then I'm going to pick up the 4mm round pearl. And then I'm going to add a single 11/0. And I'm going to make the other loop on the other end. And I'm going to start by taking my flat nose pliers and bending this, but opposite to the loop that I just made. So we don't want to make a loop in the same direction. Instead of like to the side, we want it front to back or back to front. So first I'm going to grab it right above that 11/0 here, and I'm going to bend it by pushing against it with my finger. So you want it bent to the side like this. And now I can see I have a little bit too much here for a loop. If you want a larger loop, you may leave all of that. I'm just going to nip the tip of it. And now grab and roll to make the other loop. Now, as I said, I want these loops to be facing the opposite direction. So I'm just going to make sure by twisting this a little bit with my pliers. So I have this loop facing like this and the other one facing the other way. Now let's make the 3 remaining dangles. So I'm not cutting the head off this time. I'm just picking the 3mm round pearl. First, I'm going to bend this wire to one side like this. Then I should trim it just enough to make a loop. And now for the loop, holding it with my fingers and rolling with my pliers. I'll make another one exactly like this. And the last one here will have 2 pearls on it, a 3mm pearl and a 4mm pearl. Now all that's left to do is to put it all together. For that, we're going to need these lovely pendants that I think I forgot to mention when I discussed the supplies. They are also like hammered, really pretty. We're gonna need 1 jump ring and of course the earring finding. So the first thing I'll do is I'll put on my main pendant here, or connector actually at this point, because it has 2 loops on the earring finding. And I'm opening a ring, putting on my connector here, putting on my earring finding. And while I'm at it, I can also put on my 3 and 4mm round pearls segment, and it's going in the front of my earring finding. So please mind which way you put your earring finding on the jump ring, because you want this in the front. And now close your jump ring, make sure it's tightly closed. Now we're going to put on our 2 little pendants, and for that we're going to open them up. So you just bend it a little bit to the side so that there is a slight opening. And we're going to put them on the 2 sides of this loop in our main connector. Maybe I'll just use my pliers for that. So I'm just putting it on this loop here on one side, closing it up. Now let's open the other one. And I'll be putting this on the other side of this loop on top of this pendant here. So in the same loop that I put the other 3mm pearl pendant in, just from the other side. There, and that's the top of our earring. Now we want to add this lovely silver pendant. And for that, I'm just going to open and close the loop on the bottom. There, and the earrings are ready. Now let's get on with the necklace. Now for the necklace, you're going to make 8 pieces with head pins. And these are going to be this long baroque drop plus 4mm pearl. Then for the top of this, we're going to need 1 dangle with a 4mm and 3mm pearl, then a single 4, then a single 3mm round pearl. Then for the 2 sides of the necklace, right above the main part, we're going to need each of these pearls on their individual head pins. So these round baroque pearls and these 6mm rounds. So let's start with that. This one first. So I'm taking my first head pin, putting it through that long elongated drop, then the 4mm pearl. And then I'm also going to put on a single 11-0. I'll bend that wire, just like that. I'll cut it to make a medium-sized loop, because this time it's not going to go through a jump ring or another loop, it's going to go through the hole in the pendant, and we're going to need a larger loop for that. I'm going to roll my loop. Now let's make the 3 dangles that are going to go above this connector here. So the first one is going to be 3mm pearl and 4mm pearl. No 11-0s here. Bending it to the side. And this time the loops are going to be kind of small. Now a single 3mm and a single 4mm pearl. Alright, now for these 4 components, we're going to need connectors, so loops on both sides. So the first thing I do is I cut off the head of the 4 pins. I make a single loop on one side of them. And this time I'm going to put an 11-0 on each side of these pearls. So I'm starting with an 11-0, then a pearl, then an 11-0. And now we want the other loop to be facing the same direction. Trim the excess. And you do the same for the remaining round, baroque, and regular round pearls. I have all of my components ready. And now I'm going to need 6 jump rings. I pre-opened them already. I'm gonna start by putting on my long drop. For this, I'm gonna have to open this top loop a little bit. And I'm gonna try to put it through that connector. And I want the front of this loop to be kind of in the front of the pendant. So I close it in the back. Now 1 jump ring on top of that connector here. And I'm going to put all 3 of my small dangles in the front in this jump ring. So I'm starting with the longest dangle with 2 pearls on it. then the middle one with the 4mm pearl, and the one with the 3mm pearl goes in last. I'm gonna close that jump ring. I'll pick up the next jump ring, put it through that jump ring that I just added here, and I'm going to put 2 of my 6mm pearl bits on it. So I'm putting the next jump ring in the other end of one of my side pieces with a 6mm pearl, and I'm adding on the round baroque pearls. One on this side, and the other one on the other side. I noticed that that middle jump ring that I added is not fully closed, so I'm coming back to close it. Remember to fully close your jump rings to make sure that nothing falls apart. Right, so I've got my centerpiece now. So now the only thing left to do is to add the chain. I already finished one end of it here. I'm about to finish the other end. And then I'm going to cut it in half because that's easier to measure if you just have your chain and do one end, attach it, then measure it on your neck, like where you want this to be placed, like what length you want. And then you finish the chain, and then you cut it in half, and then add the clasp. So I have one piece of chain. I'm going to finish the other end now. And the way I'll do it is I'll put this little clamshell end in my pliers, like this, with the opening facing up. And I'm going to put the last ball of the ball chain in this end, clamshell end that is, and I'll close it up. It should look like this. There's a tiny hole where you can put your jump ring. So you just put your chain on, then put one end of your central element on. Close it up. Do it on the other end. So now I'm going to measure where the half of the chain is, and that's where I'm going to cut this in half with my wire cutters. And I'm going to bring in 2 more clamshell ends and 2 more jump rings because of course I forgot we're going to need 2 more for the clasp. So as I finish each end of the chain, I put on one end of my clasp. And your set is ready. Isn't it so classy with all those elite crystal pearls and those beautiful, gorgeous GleamCraft findings? They're so kind of rustic, but in a highbrow way, I would say. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. You can really whip up this set in like half an hour, so I hope you'll be making it. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next tutorial. Bye!